The history of humankind is etched in the triumphs and tragedies of conquest, but few endeavors shaped the trajectory of the ancient world as profoundly as the collision between the Roman Republic and the fractured kingdoms of Greece. The history of humankind is etched in the triumphs and tragedies of conquest, but few endeavors shaped the trajectory of the ancient world as profoundly as the collision between the Roman Republic and the fractured kingdoms of Greece. Imagine the Mediterranean, not a placid expanse, but a volatile stage set for a fatal collision. 10 years before Rome achieved true maritime supremacy, the Hellenistic kingdoms, Macedon, the expansive Seleucid Empire, and the scattered, proud city-states, stood poised on the brink of annihilation. This was the world of the late 3rd century before the Common Era, a time when the balance of power was precarious, defined by shifting alliances, entrenched rivalries, and the constant, grinding pressure of external forces. The region was a mosaic of power. The great Eastern monarchies vying for control of Asia Minor, the formidable Macedonian kingdom seeking its place among the giants, and the independent Greek city-states clinging to their ancestral autonomy. This fragmented world was slowly being squeezed by an inexorable, rising power from the West. The conquest was not a single, swift act of military genius, but a cascade of brutal, calculated wars. The Macedonian Wars, the Seleucid War, the Aetolian War, and the Achaean War. Each conflict was a meticulous application of organized force against a landscape that stubbornly resisted unified control. Rome advanced not merely with the sheer weight of its legions, but with an apparatus of logistics and rhetorical skill that the fragmented Greeks simply could not match. At the heart of these campaigns stood men like Publius Flavius Flamininus, who mastered the art of turning battlefield tactics into political weapons, using oratory to fuel resolve, while outmaneuvering enemies whose alliances were as brittle as dry olive wood. The military reality of this era was one of stark contrast. On one side stood the disciplined, heavy infantry of the Roman legion, clad in segmented armor, promising relentless, organized force. On the other stood the fluid, lethal formations of the Macedonian phalanx, backed by potent cavalry, and the diverse armies of the Seleucid realm. The landscape itself became a weapon, the rugged terrain of Asia Minor and Greece serving as a brutal amphitheater, where the clash between imperial organization and local resistance unfolded in fire and dust. As the legions pushed deep into Asia Minor and Greece, the political landscape transformed into a web of poisoned diplomacy. The great empires of the East were desperate to secure their borders, their survival contingent upon forging advantageous ties with the rising power in the West. The Seleucid king, Antiochus, sought to cement his position by manipulating the political landscape, ultimately seeking to marry his daughter into the Roman sphere through a strategic alliance with Seleucus IV. This attempt at strategic entrenchment was destined to fail under the weight of external disapproval. In the shadows of this grand conflict, another power watched with mounting fury. The kingdom of Pergamon, though geographically sidelined from the main thrust of the conflict, was excluded from the central drama. King Eumenes II of Pergamon became an unwilling, yet potent, informant, acting as a voice of warning to the Roman Senate, leveraging the ancient fear of invasion to press for intervention. Despite repeated, earnest pleas from Eumenes to the Roman leaders, the Senate remained unmoved. Despite repeated, earnest pleas from Eumenes to the Roman leaders, the Senate remained unmoved. The final diplomatic leverage was not solely military might, but a carefully calibrated threat delivered with chilling precision. Eumenes delivered his final warning, asserting that failure to intervene would result in catastrophic consequences for the entire region. This pressure was amplified by a powerful spectacle. In a display of supreme confidence, Eumenes marched his entire army in a peaceful parade through Delphi, the sacred and spiritual center of the Greek world, sending an unequivocal message that he, The ruler of Pergamon was the protector of the Greeks, not the encroaching Romans. Increasingly urgent embassies from Pergamon began to beseech the Roman Senate for aid, culminating in Eumenes himself arriving to plead his case in early 172. He argued that the peace established since the great conflicts of the preceding century had allowed Macedon to fully recover its strength, while the Roman presence threatened the entire region. The ultimate peace that settled these tumultuous Hellenistic conflicts was not a treaty born of equality, but a grim truce secured by the very imbalance of power that Rome had created. The Macedonian Wars and the Seleucid conflict were won not merely by the brute force of legionaries, but by the cold, hard calculus of imperial logistics and the unyielding recognition that the cost of conquest always exceeds the reward of victory. The immense machinery of Rome successfully consumed the fragmented world, leaving behind an empire defined not by shared ideals, but by the relentless, terrifying efficiency of its expansion. This efficiency was systemic, establishing a legal and administrative framework that allowed the vast, heterogeneous lands of the East to be incorporated into the Roman economic and political machine. Roads were built not just for military deployment, but for trade, integrating disparate cultures into a single, albeit unequal, economic orbit. This absorption created a complex tapestry where the old ways of life collided violently with the new demands of Roman administration. The legacy of this collision was not just the boundaries drawn on a map, but the enduring tension between centralized imperial ambition and the fierce, resilient identities of the peoples who inhabited those lands. The infrastructure built by Rome, the roads, the legal concepts, the methods of taxation, did not vanish with the final dissolution of the empire. Instead, they mutated, becoming the foundational scaffolding upon which subsequent civilizations built their own realities. The transplanted Roman framework seeped into the local soil, adapting to indigenous needs, yet always bearing the indelible mark of imperial order. This legacy is visible not just in the ruins of ancient cities, but in the persistent structures of the modern world. A constant negotiation between centralized authority and localized self-determination that continues to define the human experience. The laws codified in the Roman world, the concept of citizenship, and the hierarchical structures of governance became the foundational grammar through which subsequent empires and nations would articulate their own struggles for power and identity. When the Western world rediscovered these texts, they were re-engaging with the methods of control that had shaped human civilization for 2 millennia. Thus, the collision on the shores of the Mediterranean did not end with the fall of the Republic. It merely transformed, evolving into the very architecture of the world we inhabit today. The echoes of that initial imposition resonated through the rise and fall of powers, seeding the concepts of law, citizenship, and state that define the modern political landscape.